Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So the first thing in the agenda is attendance. If all the attendees write their names and organizations in the chat box, we'll be able to capture that. Thank you. While everybody is doing that, the May 28th meeting, the last meeting which we had, we canceled the June meeting. So the last meeting we had was on May 28th. There's a meeting summary in your agenda packet. Please let us know if there's anything which needs to be corrected at this moment. Okay, seeing none, let's move into the public comment period. I haven't received any public comment through email or through telephone. At this time, we would like to open the public comment period. Sid, is there anybody from the public at this moment who would like to speak?
There isn't. I don't see anyone.
I see a hand raised.
Yes, never mind.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hey, I had previously sent the email 2 days ago. I don't know if I sent it to the right place, but it was just in regards to just a suggestion for a new transit stop or a new transit stop off of the bridge by the what is it, Old Manchester Bridge with abandoned schoolhouses across from the food truck place. That was a suggestion I had did with the just for as a transit stop, as well as the empty space over on Dock Street where the over on Dock Street where they just built the community center of Shiplocks Park. I don't know if I sent it to the correct email, but that was an email I had sent over, just as well as with some other suggestions for GRTC, the bus line. If you like, I can go ahead and forward those emails to you. I sent them from my Gmail account.
Thank you so much. We'll take into considerations your suggestions. I haven't received any email from you. I don't know if Sid or anybody else has received the email or not, but you can provide that to me. My email is in the presentation slides if you are going to stay for the meeting, and obviously I can provide you later on, but it's sarial@planrva.org. So it would be great if you can provide those comments to me directly.
Okay, and you said SRAL at
SARYAL at planrva.org.
Go. Second. Okay, so I just went ahead and got that. I just went ahead and forwarded those emails to you. But I just went ahead and forwarded those emails to you.
Thank you so much.
Give me 1 second. How would I turn this off? Shoot.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak now?
It doesn't look like anybody else.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we close the public comment period. The next item in the agenda is the LRTP progress update, which I'm going to provide. So the progress update is basically a reminder to everybody about our process flow. I'm going to speak about this in every meeting for a short time so that everybody is well aware of our process. So the LRTP process flow is a cyclic process in lines with the federal regulations, which requires the transportation planning process to be comprehensive, cooperative, and continuing, which we call as the 3C process. So we start with the data development for the 2050, which is our horizon year. We call it the socioeconomic data. That was a 2-year process. It was adopted by our policy board in I believe September 2023. Um, the second part phase of this process is the scenario analysis, in which we look at multiple futures, not just one, which has been the tradition. So we did a comprehensive scenario planning process, the pathways to the future, which was also adopted by the RRTPO Policy Board last September. We are going to incorporate some of the components of the scenario planning process in this process as well. The third phase is the strategic direction, in which we develop the vision, guiding principles, goals, objectives, and strategies for the plan, which we have mostly completed. The next phase is the transportation needs assessment. The bulk of the presentation today, as well as what we have been doing recently, is the work on the transportation needs assessment, in which we looked at the data available to us about different transportation deficiencies like safety, infrastructure condition, accessibility, those kind of things, and try to develop inventory of issues and needs, and eventually try to come up with solutions, which would be the next phase of the plan, which is the universe of projects. Once we have the universe of projects finalized, we prioritize those projects, then we evaluate the plan, and then finally the plan comes to an adoption by the RRTPO Policy Board. The adoption date is scheduled for September of 2026. So we have almost finished the first three phases, and then uh, the fourth phase is also near to its completion. So this again, this gives a little bit more clarity on how the process goes. Even though it's a cyclic process, we are doing two parallel processes. So the first step obviously is developing the vision, goals, and objectives, which leads into the development of performance measures, which we haven't started yet. Secondly, we are also working on the transportation issues identification and then development of the transportation needs. That is still going on. But for phase three, the project inclusion guidelines, which is basically the guideline of what type of projects we include in the LRTP, that has been recommended by the LRTP advisory work group, and then we move forward towards it. So this meeting is mainly focused on some of the updates on phase three, as well as the major presentations would be related to task four. So the goals, objectives, and the strategies, we had multiple meetings and to discuss this, including the group breakout rooms meetings, which when we started it. Then we received many comments, and finally we all came into an agreement in our in our May meeting to get the recommended goals, objectives, and strategies. Once that was done, we started a formal public comment period through from July 1st to July 15th. So that was the 15-day formal public period. The one-page slide you look at, you see here is a boiled down version of what we actually did, so that it's easily digestible for the public. So instead of giving all the details, we try to give the public a page of the snapshot of what we have done and capture the essence of what we had discussed. So this was the one-page overview which went for the public comment period. Eventually, we received a lot of comments, and seems like most of the comments we received were from people from the transportation community rather than the general public, and the comments were pretty detailed. So we, in midway of the process, we uploaded the full version of the goals and the goals, objectives, and strategies, so that whoever is looking at the plan gets the full picture. So we made one page of all these four goals and provided midway. Overall, we received 31 comments, very comprehensive comments. The total number of participants were 8. So the 8 participants who were highly immersed in transportation planning process of the Richmond region provided 31 comprehensive comments to us. The comments are still there in the Engage RVA page. If you want to look at that, those are still there. Obviously, the comment period has been closed, but the comments are still there. So what we basically got from the comments, and these are the common themes which we basically came into conclusion. So for goal A, which is safety, it was generally positive. Um, there was ask for more aggressive policies and enforcement to be effective, and rightly so. Goal B was also very well received. It again asked for more ambitious objectives for model shifts and practical support for environmental concerns. Goal C, which is the reliability. Goal B is sustainability. Goal C is reliability. It's also generally positive. There was an ask to add comfortable and dignified in the goal statement. We don't have those at this moment. And again, as other objectives, a more ambitious objective to implement more bike infrastructure was asked in goal C. Um, Goal D was, I believe, the general intent of our goal, which is resiliency, was well understood, but comments suggested that the some of the statements were vague based on some of the definition which were not clear cut, and I believe that those are very technical, and we thought this is just a public comment period, so we tried to make sure that um, it's not that detailed or that technical. So that was the intent, to not to provide very detailed information, as well as we didn't provide what was the information related to what was the base year numbers. So people just saw the objectives, which is kind of a quantified, measurable unit, but they didn't actually see what was the base year number. We didn't want to make sure that. So basically, based on that, a more ambitious objective is something which we see throughout the goals. At this point, we believe no changes are necessary, and we are going to take this to the RRTPO policy board in their August 7th meeting and provide them the same information, and then go from there. So that's the update I have. Before we go into the next update, is there any questions that I should be aware of? Okay, seeing none, let's go into the phase 4 updates, the transportation issues to be addressed. We have multiple presentations in this. We have completed 2 more technical documents. One is the Richmond Regional Structure Inventory and Assessment Report. The other is the Congestion Management Report. So let's start with the Structural Inventory and Assessment Report. This was a work done by Will, and for the last 1 year, and the product has been very great. So Will, it's all over to you. I'm going to disconnect my screen.
Okay. All right, let me get mine shared. Okay, is everyone seeing my screen all right? Perfect. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I will be presenting the latest Richmond Regional Structural Inventory and Assessment Report. This report will be included in the appendix of the LRTP. So first, I want to give a summary of the report and changes in the region since the last report, and then I'll briefly go over performance measures that are tracked, and then give a brief overview of the State of Good Repair program. And then finally, I'll conclude with some data about the structures in our region. Whoops, okay. So the structural inventory report is updated every 5 years as a part of the long range transportation update. It tracks the conditions of bridges and culverts in the TPO, identifying which structures are weight posted structures, meaning that the bridge has a posted weight restriction, and identifying which structures are considered structurally deficient, meaning that they have been assigned a general condition rating of 5 or lower. So this report records federal and state performance measures for structures and tracks structures in the TPO that are eligible for State of Good Repair funding. And the data used in this report was taken from the Virginia Department of Transportation, as well as the Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment. So since the last report, people, would probably expect there have been a few changes in the region since 2020. Since then, the TPO has added 81 new structures and a new condition category was created. So the new condition category labels structures with a GCR of 5 as a cusp structure. The structure is exactly what you expect. A cusp structure is a structure on the cusp of becoming poor, and that signals that repairs and maintenance should be considered. So with the addition of the cusp category, structures that are considered structurally deficient was expanded to include both cusp and poor structures. And this was done so that structures on the cusp category would go ahead and be eligible for repair funds, and then that would hopefully reduce the overall cost of repairs. So with that in mind, I do want to go a little bit deeper into what structural deficiency is. So the structural deficiency of a bridge is determined by the condition rating of 3 bridge areas. So the deck, which is the riding surface, the superstructure, which are the supports directly under the driving surface, and then the substructure, which includes the foundation and the support posts and piers. So the condition rating for the bridge, there's a scale of 0 to 9. 0 would be a failed bridge, 9 would be a bridge that's in excellent condition. A bridge given a condition of 4 or less for any of those 3 categories will be considered structurally deficient. A bridge is also considered structurally deficient if it is closed to traffic, if it requires rehabilitation, or if it has been restricted to light vehicles only. And because I want to stress that structural deficiency does not imply that a bridge is about to be dangerous, is going to be dangerous, or is going to fall down, I want to take a second and actually just read you the definition from VDOT's bridge inspection definition report. So, quote, structural deficient means there are elements of the bridge that need to be monitored and or repaired. The fact that the bridge is structurally deficient does not imply that it is likely to collapse or that it is unsafe. So just wanted to take a few seconds and really highlight that from VDOT directly. So I'll go into our performance measures, starting with state and then go into federal. So as I mentioned earlier, the inventory report captures state and federal performance measures for the structures in the TPO. There are 3 state performance measures and targets that are set by VDOT. So you have the average general condition rating has to be greater or equal to 5.6 on primary roads, or I'm sorry, then the percentage of structures that are in good, fair, and fair conditions. On the interstate, that percentage has to be greater than 97. On primary roads, that number needs to be greater than or equal to 93. And then on secondary and urban roads, that number needs to be greater than or equal to 90%. So if you can see, looking at this little green highlighted column on the right, the Richmond region is meeting those set goals from the state. So looking at our federal performance measures, performance measures focus largely on the poor structures, and they focus on structures that are on the National Bridge Inventory on the National Highway System. So the goals that the federal performance measures have set, no more than 10% of the deck area of NBI structures on the NHS may be poor. And then each state has to establish 2- and 4-year goals for the percentage of poor deck area of those structures on the NBI and NHS. So again, if you look at the columns on the right-hand side, you can see that the Richmond region is meeting these goals. So you've heard me mention the State of Good Repair already a couple times in this presentation. The State of Good Repair program is set out in the Code of Virginia and provides funding for, quote, reconstruction and replacement of structurally deficient state and locally owned bridges and reconstruction and rehabilitation of pavement on the interstate system and primary state highway system. 30% of VDOT's budget is allocated and goes into the State of Good Repair system. It's allocated to projects by highway construction district and is done through a priority ranking system that was established by the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So now I'm going to move into the thing that I'm sure everyone's been waiting on, the data for the region. So we have a total of 1,509 structures in the region. That number does include all of the structures within Chesterfield County, not just within our TPO area. That was done just so there was a fuller, more accurate count of what we have in the area. So let's see. 63% of the structures that are in the area are considered in fair or better condition, and they are not structurally deficient. So a majority of our structures are not structurally deficient, which is of course always a good thing. Of the structurally deficient structures, a vast majority of them are in that new cusp category. So only recently would they be added into structurally deficient categories. The average age of the structures in the region is 46 years. There are four closed structures, and let's see, four closed structures. And then I've got, okay, so this is a map that just sort of gives a general overview of where the cusp and pore structures are in the region. You can see it's not really super surprising that there's a lot sort of in the Richmond Henrico area where sort of the James goes through, smaller water streams, things like that need to cross. These are the weight posted structures. So you can see not near as many, quite a few number. And then this is all of the jurisdictions, bridges and culverts broken down in their categories. So I've highlighted some of the sort of important, or what I thought were important. So you can see Richmond has the greatest number of bridges that are in poor condition. And let's see, as far as culverts, Chesterfield is who has the lowest number, or the highest number of poor condition bridges. Henrico has the greatest number of bridges that are in good condition. And again, Chesterfield has the highest number of culverts in good condition. Overall, Henrico has just the greatest total number of structures. And a majority of our bridges are in the cusp condition. A majority of our culverts are in fair condition, and relatively few amount of both are in the poor condition. So again, this just shows it broken down slightly different. You can see that Richmond has the greatest percentage in the poor structure, and then New Kent, funny enough, has the greatest percentage of cusp and total structurally deficient structures in the area. So VDOT owns a large majority of the structures in the area, and this just provides a very quick sort of screenshot between, so you can see VDOT, non-VDOT. They just really, have a bulk of the structures. And then at the end of the bridge report, each locality has pages like this that will show. So this is just a small portion of it. I couldn't fit the entirety of it on here. But each locality will have their bridges listed. If it is poor, it'll be this darker color. If it's cusp, it'll be a little bit lighter, make it easy to find. You'll see the facility name, the route, what type of highway system it is, and then what the structure you're looking at. And then each locality will also have a map that shows where the bridges and culverts are in that area. So I know I just threw a whole lot at you. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them, and I can stop sharing.
Any questions for Will? Our recommendation to the LRTP members, as well as mostly the locality members, is to go through the report and especially look at the localities, specific localities part, so you'll be aware of what's going on in your individual jurisdiction. If we don't have any questions, please feel free to review the report. It's posted with the agenda, and if you have any questions, just feel to ask those questions to Will or myself, and we'll be able to respond back to you to the best of our knowledge. Okay, the next presentation is the congestion management process report. Carrie, who developed the report, is in the APA conference today, so Dorian has gracefully accepted to give this presentation. Dorian, please go ahead.
Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. So good morning. I'll be filling in for Carrie to discuss the congestion management process. So the RRTPO congestion management process is a performance-based approach used to identify, monitor, and address roadway congestion in our region. It is required for NPOs and transportation management areas under federal law 23 CFR 450.322. So some of the main data sources that we use is RITIS, or the Regional Integrated Transportation Information System. This provides all the necessary data needed to analyze traffic patterns. It analyzes traffic volume, speed, class, and occupancy. This is information collected by agencies and third parties from roadway sensors that could include inductive loops, side fire sensors, radar, and video. This also includes data from probe-based systems, either agency-owned or third-party supplied technology. It looks at events, work zone, and incident information. So this is information that is entered by agencies into their own incident management system. Data typically includes incident location, type, severity, information about the vehicles involved in their status, to whom are notifications made, and which responders are on scene. This data also uses crowdsourced Waze data. This data is provided by public users of the Waze application and can supplement data produced by DOT advanced traffic management system platforms and public safety computer aided design systems. This data includes locations of collisions, disabled vehicles, debris, congestion, and other events that impact traffic flow and traffic safety. And the subjects of the congestion management process are the interstates, expressways, U.S. routes, and other arterials. So this is just some of the data that is collected for the CMP. Bottlenecks being anywhere where traffic exceeds roadway capacity. And this can include busy intersections, narrow lanes, highway ramps. And then we measure congestion. So congestion is measured as such. Mild congestion is measured as current speed is 70 to 89% of expected speed. Moderate congestion is 50% to 69% of expected speed. Severe congestion is 50% is below 50% of expected speed. And extreme severe congestion is current speed is extremely low or close to complete stop. We also measure comparative speed, and this is measured as such. Normal speed is 90 to 100% of expected speed. Moderate slowdowns are 70% to 90% of expected speed. Heavy congestion is 50% to 70% of expected speed. And severe congestion is below 50% of expected speed. We also measure travel time index. This is the measure of congestion or delay experienced on a roadway compared to free flow traffic conditions. It is used to quantify how much longer trips take due to congestion. The formula for this is the average travel time over free flow travel time. Next, we measure the planning time index. This is a measure of how much extra time a traveler should allow for a trip to account for variability or uncertainty in traffic times. So it helps in planning unexpected delays due to traffic congestion, accidents, and weather conditions. This is measured by the 95th percentile travel time over free flow travel time. We also measure the buffer time index, and this focuses specifically on extra time needed to ensure that a trip will be completed on time, even under the most congested or unpredictable conditions. It's more of a conservative measure than the PTI, and it looks at the difference between the 95th percentile and the average time. This is measured by the 95th percentile travel time minus the average travel time over free flow travel time. So next, we measure the level of travel time reliability. This is defined as the ratio of the 80th percentile travel time to the 50th percentile travel time. This helps indicate how much travel time deviates during peak congestion compared to typical or median conditions. The formula for this is 80th percentile travel time over 50th percentile travel time. We also measure the travel reliability index. The travel reliability index shows how consistent your travel times are. So low TRI, your travel times are steady and predictable. A high TRI is your travel times can vary a lot or less predictable. So in other words, a lower TRI means you can expect your trip to take about the same amount of time that it would every day, while a higher TRI means you should be prepared for more variations in travel time. So these are the scoring factors that go into the road segments that goes into tracking the top 10 worst segments in the area. These factors were broken into to quartiles and points and were assigned accordingly. Once these were factored, you can see where we have the top 10 of the segments, highest congestion segments in the area. So on the left here, we have a map that shows the top 10 segments outlined. On the right side of the screen, we have the rankings of these travel time of these congested areas. So routes 3 and 1 are hidden because they overlap a bit with the other sides of the road, showing that the area is especially problematic. So as you can see, we have the top 10 worst congested areas. Number 1 being I-64 from exit 76B to the entrance near Arthur Ashe Boulevard and Robinson Street. And again, this will be an appendix to the LRTP, so we can go through this in a lot more detail once we have that document published. That will conclude the presentation for the CMP. If you have any questions, please direct them to Carrie. And if there's any questions that we can answer now, I'd be happy to take those now.
Thank you, Dorian. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this presentation. It's a very technical report, and this is the process we go through to find those needs and deficiencies related to congestion, which you have already seen. So, yeah, if interested, please go over to the document. It's a very detailed document. Kerry has spent numerous hours developing it, and it's one of the core requirement for the long-range transportation plan as well as the MPO planning process. So if we have no further questions, we can move along the next part of the presentation.
Thank you again, everyone. Just want to give an update on the existing multimodal transportation issues and needs inventory. So Plan RVA staff provided locality staff and agencies with the issues inventory spreadsheet and story map. We wanted to give the group about 2 weeks to look over the material, then provide some time to discuss the contents. We scheduled hour-long meetings for the week of July 14th with the goal of understanding what did we miss, and did the issues corridors coincide with what the localities and agencies knew internally. The purpose of these meetings was not to discuss projects, but the issues. So strictly, do the issues spelled out within the documents make sense, or are there more to add? The issues themselves were a combination of existing conditions analysis, various studies and plans, and public engagement feedback. The issues were mapped to the LRTP network, which consists of over 30,000 links and consists only of roads classified as principal arterial and above. The needs or solutions to the issues were derived from corridor level analysis or came from the aforementioned studies and plans. So a major theme of our conversations was what were the sources that were of the issues and needs. So I want to take some time to address that to the group as a whole. In bold is basically our issues, our main issues, and under that we'll have the sources for these issues. So under safety, we used VTrans potential for safety improvements, which include intersections and road segments that have shown to have high propensity for fatalities and serious injuries, and VTrans 2021 pedestrian safety improvements. We use VDOT's pedestrian safety action plan, which looks at statewide pedestrian crashes and conditions. And we also use the Richmond Regional Transportation Safety Plan, which looks at high injury networks. This is assessed the propensity of severe crash outcomes using the Health Opportunity Index for each census block. Under congestion roadway issues, we focus mainly on the RRTPO congestion management process, which looks at federally required performance measures and congestion tracking. We also utilize VDOT STAR studies, interchange modification reports, interchange justification reports, and arterial management studies. So accessibility was pretty much a catch-all issue that encompassed several modes of transportation and utilized the Bike Ped RVA 2040 plan, which highlights a vision for a more complete, comprehensive active transportation network. DRPT's Transit Vision Plan, which highlights a long-term vision for development of transit in the region. And then for freight access, we looked at three main sources: the I-95 Commerce Road Richmond Marine Terminal Study, the Richmond Tri-Cities Intermodal Strategy Study, and then the Commerce Corridor Study as well. We assess infrastructure conditions using the VDOT pathways for planning pavement conditions. This is a web-based application that allows us to view and analyze pavement conditions. Richmond and Henrico's pavement condition indexes, and then VDOT urban road dashboard data, which looks at pavement and structure conditions as well. So travel options was basically our rail access section, and include the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority layover feasibility study, the Raleigh to Richmond program S-Line project, the 2022 state rail plan, and then DC to RVA. We also included Plan RVA public engagement process, comments from our Plan RVA public engagement process. And then under localities, we use locality comprehensive plans and local area plans. So this is just a snapshot of our story map, our issue story map, and we can get into that to a lot more detail. We also disseminated to the group the issues inventory, and as you can see, the inventory is broken down into two parts. Major issues that were identified. So on the link level, on a specific corridor, if 30% of the links on a specific corridor were shown to have an issue, then that corridor was flagged as an issue corridor. These corridors were given a binary attribute that associate with each major issue. So access, safety, infrastructure conditions, reliability, and congestion factors. The second part of the spreadsheet dealt with the solutions or the needs to these issues facing the corridors, and they were given the binary attribute as well. So if it coincided, it was given a 1. If it didn't, it was given a 0. And these needs were broken down to solutions such as new transit lines, road alignments, roadway extensions, new roads, new access to freight generators, and a myriad of multimodal issues. So what did we hear from the localities? First and foremost, what were the sources used in the analysis? And that's why I wanted to take some time to break that down to you today. We also had some questions about congestion definitions and thresholds. These questions regarding resiliency and the predictability measures. The resiliency with respect to congestion dealt with flood inundation or the propensity for certain road segments to be susceptible to flood inundation. And predictability is just as it says, how well can we predict the conditions of a road or the congestion on a road segment. We also dealt with issues with thresholds. Thresholds may have been too high to capture known congested areas, so we wanted to go back and include all congested areas that were mentioned in the CMP and not just the top 10. We also had questions about existing conditions versus future conditions. What was shown on the map and what was shown in the spreadsheet were our existing conditions. So it did not account for any kind of current or ongoing studies or any kind of future conditions that we may be privy to going forward. And then we also wanted to, kind of highlight what the process was with the plans and studies that were used to derive some of the issue corridors going forward as well. So again, this was the process to just kind of hear from the localities and the agencies about the data that was presented. Was there anything else missing from the data, and how can we improve the data going forward? We're still collecting a lot of sources from our localities and agencies, and will be included in our analysis going forward. I think Sula will pick it up from here. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, thank you, Dorian. Before we move forward, I just wanted to make sure that everybody is fine. and everybody had a chance to look at our online map. I think with the agencies and the localities, we met. Dorian gave a demonstration of the online map. Um, do any of the other members feel like if a high level overview is now given by Dorian would be helpful to them? So uh, if that's the need, then Dorian can give a quick 5-minute demonstration of the online version of the map.
Sure. So basically, we wanted to divide the map into the issues that were discussed within the spreadsheet. So here we have the safety section that looks at the PSI nodes, the potential for safety improvement nodes. Again, these are areas that have high propensity for serious and fatal crashes. Our high injury network here, again, these are corridors that have high propensity for crashes, both fatal and serious injury. And then the potential for safety improvements and pedestrian safety is spelled out in the 2021 VTrans. And then also our active transportation network and highway safety network as well. Moving on to congestion, as stated before, these are some of the measures that we look at to measure congestion in the region. And as we go forward, we can see a number of the different measures that we're taking to look at the congestion as well. Again, highway resiliency, we had a lot of questions about that. That's basically roadway segments that are susceptible to flood inundation, highway predictability, and then overall highway congestion as well. Accessibility, again, this is a catch-all for a number of different modes of transportation. As you can see, we have our transit vision corridors or transit vision routes. We also have highway access issues. The freight access issues are basically highway projects around freight generating areas in the region. And then the active transportation network with respect to the LRTP network. So Will just gave a great presentation on the bridge and pavement conditions, and this is the map that we spell out where the problematic areas are, problematic structures and pavement conditions throughout the region. Travel options, again, this is our basically our rail map, our rail network map. It spells out the different rail ownership. According to the rail plan, there's a high propensity for safety issues around at-grade rail crossings, so we want to flag those at-grade rail crossings in our map as well. And these are our public comments. This is basically from our public engagement activities, and it basically shows what the public is saying are some of the transportation issues that they're facing in their daily lives. And finally, we have projects from our local comprehensive plans. Of course, this does not include ongoing projects, ongoing studies. So this is currently what's already been completed into the current comprehensive plans as is. So please feel free if you have any questions or concerns about the mapping or the spreadsheet.
Thank you, Dorian. Is there any final thoughts or questions before we move forward? Okay, seeing none, we have a few additional slides left for the presentation, which I'm going to present. So one thing which I would like to mention is that the issues is at the transportation link level, which is the segment, the smallest segment in the road corridor. Normally, it is from intersection to intersection. So we have more than 30,000 links in the network. So we looked at all those sections. But when we come to the needs, we wanted to make sure that it's reasonable enough for everybody to look at it. If we provided like 30,000 problems in all the links, it's going to be pretty much difficult for everybody to look at. So that was the reason we converted those needs at the corridor level. And at that time, it's considered as a need. The other thing is that while developing the issues, we looked at all roads, all major roads, everything. But now, when we are looking at the needs, it's basically looking only into certain networks, highway networks, which we are calling as the LRTP highway network. So the LRTP highway network as it exists now is basically the combination of the national highway system, which is of national importance. It includes all the interstate, the other primary arterials, any strategic highway networks or strategic network connectors, and then obviously intermodal connectors, even though if it's not functionally classified as principal arterials or arterials, it could even be a collector road. Plus the Virginia's primary state highways, which is of statewide and regional importance. So it basically connects jurisdiction with each other and then also with the interstate. So route numbers below 600 is what the Virginia primary state highway is. So that's what the LRTP network is, and that's where we'll be focusing on. So this is the highway network as it stands. This is the existing one. Obviously, if there's a new alignment in the future, that's going to be added. So that's going to be the future highway network, but we start from the existing one. So overall, we calculated the centerline miles and nail miles for the overall highway network. It's around 852 miles center lines and then 3,354 miles if you looked at the lane miles. This might be like 2-3% off because it's difficult to exactly get those numbers, but it's around that magnitude. And then there's questions of these minor arterials. So if you look at the minor arterials, which were not included in our LRTP highway network, it's mostly concentrated in the big three localities. Mostly, there's only a few roads in the rural localities, as well as Hanover, which would be added as minor arterials. So we are not adding minor arterials to the LRTP network, but there is a requirement based on the air quality conformity rule that any projects in the minor arterials, any highway related projects in the minor arterials which would have a major capacity change, those need to be listed in the LRTP. So as we all know, we decided the LRTP project inclusion guidelines last time, and it includes different projects within the LRTP network. One thing which we are now adding is basically only for highway projects is and highway big capacity change projects. If you think there's any big project which would be a capacity change in any of these minor arterials, then we need to add that for the LRTP as well. So again, this is additional 96 miles, centerline miles, and then 850 lane miles as we calculated. So once we have finalized the list of the needs inventory, as well the issues, we, as Dorian mentioned, we talked with most of the localities as well as some agencies and got their feedback. And we have some time before we are going to ask for the recommendation of the needs in our next LRTP meeting in August. So once that is completed, then the next phase is obviously to work on the universe of projects. And the universe of projects basically have 5 sources. It's basically we have established those needs, and a lot of those needs have already been studied. And basically, we already have most of the projects for those needs. And those projects basically come from the previous LRTP rollovers. We had 210 projects in the last long range transportation plan. I think only 15% of those projects have received funding. So 85% of the projects are still unfunded. Um, I think the needs which we saw 5 years back might be carried over this time as well. So some of those projects would fulfill the needs of the current needs which we have studied. Then we have the unfunded projects in different funding processes like Smart Scale, the CVTA regional funding, as well as the RRTPO regional project prioritization process. A lot of the projects are unfunded. Those projects could also be potential solutions to the needs which we have listed. And then obviously VDOT as well as localities, as well as DRPT and other agencies are also doing a lot of studies and plans. So most of these studies and plan aim for a solution, which is basically a project. So we can probably take those projects from these studies as well. And then obviously there are comprehensive plan and conceptual plans, which also provides a list of anticipated projects in the future. So anything which is conceptual, which doesn't show in the data, it has to come through some conceptual plan, right? Because if we do data and it's not going to show anything, any new alignment or any new thing which is required. That normally comes from these comprehensive plans and conceptual plans. This would also satisfy some of the needs which we have addressed. So finally, looking at all these different projects, if we still have the needs category in our inventory which don't have solutions, then the individual champions, VDOT as well as RRTP will work on finding a solution to those projects, those needs, and will come up with the solutions. So at the planning level for the LRTP, we don't need much details of solutions. It's not a operational level solution. It's just a planning level solution that we need. So it can be very generic. All we need is the location of the project, from where it starts, where it ends, a basic description of the project is, whether it's an interchange modification, whether it's a intersection improvement, and then the one thing which we need is the planning level cost estimates. So that's all we need for the LRTP. And I believe most of the needs would be covered based on the projects which we have already developed. If not, then we'll work on developing some projects. So obviously issues are something which is there, and issues then transform into needs, and then finally we get the solution as projects. So, but again, projects are much more complicated than issues which exist. Projects also need to have a political will to proceed. So it's not that we have a need, and if there's no political will for that, then we cannot proceed with that project. Again, issue in one location can be solved by a project in another location as well. So if there is a congestion in some route, if we have some solution in a parallel route, that might also solve the issue. So it might not be in the same location where the issue is, so the solution might be in a different location as well. The issue might be congestion, which if there's a congestion, there's a congestion, right? So, but there might be different solutions to that congestion depending upon what is the preference of that locality. So if there's a congestion, we can definitely use the traditional method of adding a lane and see if that relieves the congestion. But we can also look at some of the other methods like improving transit, adding new routes, or adding new headways like higher frequencies. Also, another solution would be adding a park and ride lot, so people drive there and use the transit from there. So, or use van pools and car pools. So there could be multiple solutions, but the fact is that the issue remains what it is, but the solutions might be different. And again, I want to stress that the solution has to have a political will to proceed. And then finally, these are the projects champions which we have identified. So all the localities, all the projects within the localities would be the champions. For any multi-jurisdiction active transportation project, any bridge projects, or any highway projects other than the interstate, which are crossing multiple jurisdiction, RRTPO would take the lead on that. Um, transit projects, GRTC would be the natural lead on that. Any interstate project, VDOT would be the lead on that. Any rail projects, DRPT as well as VPRA would be the lead on that. Any Port of Virginia related projects, mainly the capital improvement projects, the port would be the lead on that. And finally, any projects related to TDM, right finders working with the localities would be the lead on that. So the plan is that we would ask, we'll revise the needs as suggested by the localities and the agencies. We'll provide the revised inventory as well as the tweaks to the online version of the map sometime in next maybe 15-20 days for everybody to review. And then the plan is to ask for the needs recommendation to the policy board in the August meeting. And once that is done, then we'll work on developing the projects or the solutions for those needs. So I think that's the end of the presentation today. Is there any questions which I can address now, or if needed, we can talk offline as well? We had a pretty successful meetings with most of the localities and agencies last week. But if anybody wants to have those meetings, we are open to that. And we might be able to schedule it next week or the week after that. But at this time, I would just open to any comments or concerns. Okay, hearing none, we have a very silent crowd today. The next meeting would be on August 27th, same time, Wednesday, 8 a.m., virtually through Zoom. And the major item in the agenda would be the approval, the recommendation of the needs inventory so that we can start working on the projects. We would also talk about the project inclusion guidelines. We would provide you the finalized version, adding the extra thing about the minor arterials. We'd also report back to you about what we heard from the policy board about the goals, objectives, whether they have adopted those goals and objectives and strategies. And then we also would give you an introduction on the project prioritization process, which is task, I believe it's task 5. Task 6. Task 5 is the universal project. So we'll give you an introduction on once we have the universal projects, how would we go forward prioritizing those projects? As we all know, we have a constrained budget, and obviously, normal theory of economics, the demand is always less than the supply. Demand is always more than the supply. Sorry, I get it wrong. So obviously we have a lot of projects, but we don't have those funding. So we have to prioritize the project. So we'll give you a basic introduction on what that process is and how would we move forward to that. So that's all in the agenda for the next month. With that, if we don't have anything, I think we are good with the meeting. It was a short meeting, just 1 hour. And you all can get an additional hour of your time for the day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.